Welcome back to episode 7 of the Second Look Hockey Podcast. As always, I'm David Leo. I'm joined today with Cristian Ceniti and behind the camera, producer Alex Mandarino. Just an absolute hero, making our rundowns, just doing everything. Gotta always show love to producer Mando. We're gonna start this off like always. Cristian, how was your week, pal?
Good week as always. I'm ready to just skip over my week. I just want to talk about your jersey for a little bit of time here. Same one that you wore last weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, how are you feeling about your Bills? We spoke a little bit about it before recording, but yeah, let everyone know what you're feeling is on game day here.
Yeah, no, 100%. I did mention it to the guys coming in. Last week I had a bit more anxious energy just because of the Bills and the Ravens matchup. I was really nervous about the Ravens run game, and the Bills kind of stymied that for, I would say, close to 3/4 of the game before the Ravens kind of got it going in the second half, and they kind of put up points and they gave the Bills a bit of a scare, which ultimately led up to that crazy ending where Lamar Jackson he gets a touchdown pass to Isaiah Likely. Then they try for the 2 points to tie up the game, and Mark Andrews drops the ball literally on the goal line.
Still hasn't spoke to the media.
If I'm Mark Andrews, I probably won't speak to anybody until the next offseason.
He's like in the wilderness in just like a one bedroom cabin right now, just soul searching.
He might be doing an Aaron Rodgers ayahuasca experience.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate. I think we kind of saw just on that drive. For Baltimore fans, maybe correct me if I'm wrong. We're seeing potentially the changing of the tight end guards in Baltimore because Isaiah Likely, he catches that TD pass. He's been pretty consistent all year. Mark Andrews had his moments where he was down. He also had his moments where he looked like the Mark Andrews of old. But in big moments, Mark Andrews does tend to let his team down with plays like that. It's unfortunate. All the hate that he was getting was kind of sad to see, but also a bit expected just because of the magnitude of the game. Shout out to the Bills fans who always raise money for other teams' charity. In the past, they've raised money for Andy Dalton's charity after the Bills got into the playoffs for the first time in like 20 years. They raised money for Damar Hamlin. He was on their team. I'm trying to think. There was another player.
Yeah. You're thinking of like team. When things go wrong for others, they're just like, let's try and make it right. Yeah.
It happens as opposed to the Bills, you know what I mean? Like the Bills are playing that team. There was another one, but off the top of my head, I can't seem to remember. But the Bills fans are always generous with their money. They honestly, I think they just want the good luck karma because today is really, really such a big match. But I feel more excited than anxious. I'll say that. That's kind of the point that I wanted to make. I'm not as anxious. I don't feel like a pit of dread in my stomach, basically, like I kind of did last week. I think it's gonna be a great game, regardless. Whenever the Bills and the Chiefs they play in the AFC Championship game, it's always fireworks. There's never not been a game that's not had like just crazy plays, crazy like storylines, and I'm very excited to see what Chapter 4 has in this rivalry. Do you have any thoughts, Cristian, before we kind of move on?
No, I'm obviously excited. I will be hopping on the Bills bandwagon for this one here. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. Are you superstitious at all in terms of your routine on like a huge game day like this? Like I know for me, like on a big Leaf playoff game, honestly, probably any Leaf playoff game day, I have to watch the YouTube video, the Maple Leafs Forever. With that Ron Hawkins song is like, "Hey there, tragic one." Yeah, I have to watch that.
That's such a deep cut because I know me and you have always talked about that video in particular because I do the same, but for me it's just before the playoffs start. I'll typically play before the first game. I don't do it every game day. In terms of Bills superstitions, I don't think I really have any because I've seen multiple wins and multiple losses
Yeah.
at different places, and it kind of goes for the same for the Leafs. I'm not really a superstitious person, but I am a little bit stitious sometimes.
Yeah.
I'll have my moments, but yeah, no, in general, I don't really have superstitions.
That's all
Um,
right. Maybe we move to the Super Bowl
yeah,
trades that we had in the
dude,
NHL.
I think that's the best way to describe that because it's quite literally the biggest trade. I will stand pat by saying that it's probably the biggest trade mid-season since the Joe Thornton from Boston to San Jose deal, if I'm going to be completely just in terms of the superstar power going between the teams. I know a lot of people brought up the Jack Eichel trade from Buffalo to Vegas, which I thought was a fair trade, but I think just in terms of like how quick it happened and everything around it, I think we kind of knew Jack Eichel was on his way out of
Yeah.
Buffalo at that time. So I think just based on how quickly this trade came together and like we really didn't
There
have
was three
many.
people who knew this trade was coming. It was the GMs of the three teams involved. That was it. Not even the
Yeah,
players. Like
basically.
nobody
Yeah,
else knew. It
nobody
was those three,
nobody
and
was
that was
informed.
it. Yeah, I
So
had the same like thought exercise where I'm like, okay, what is this? I didn't look at it in terms of like biggest in season trade, which I think is fair. Like that's a huge disclaimer. Um, and I heard like the Jack Eichel stuff, but it's like, yeah, it's probably biggest since like Kachuk for Huberdeau and Uyghur, just in general.
mhm,
You
that's
could
fair.
even make an argument that it's bigger than that. And like you could go back to like the 23-minute stretch that changed hockey in what was that 2015, 16 there, right? 2016
Yeah,
it would have been like
2016.
June 2016, where
Yeah.
you have trade is 1-for-1, Hall for Adam Larson,
Yeesh.
Stamkos resigns, and then the trade is actually 1-for-1, the good one, Weber for PK. So that's kind
Which
of where
which
my
a lot
mind
of
went.
people thought that was going to be the one that blew
Yeah,
up in their
yeah.
faces.
Do
That
you?
was
I no,
the
I feel like I don't want to go like too long. Sorry,
yeah,
you
yeah.
got something there?
No, 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 no. Yeah.
I don't
What's
want to
up?
like go like too long before we get into the actual trade, but like I'm curious if you remembered like where you were, what you were doing on that day, like in the 23 minutes that changed hockey. Because I
I
know
will
exactly where I was.
yeah, if I'm not mistaken, that was that not on July 1st?
No, no, it was like June 28th or something because
I think we're
Stamkos, this is back when they had the
yeah.
negotiation
Okay.
period for
Mm,
free agents.
for
And
free
so
agents.
we had heard that Stammer took the meeting with the Leafs
I
and Canadian Tire was there, this and that.
If that's 10 years ago, I have to say I'm almost certain I was playing Call of Duty. Like I was playing like Black
Okay.
Ops. I
Yeah.
think that must have been Black Ops 3 that I was playing because that's
You figure we
about
were
10
like
years old now.
16. Yeah, yeah. We would
Yeah.
have been 16, 15 or 16.
Yeah.
So
I'm yeah, go.
yeah,
Where
yeah.
were you, dude?
I vividly remember this because, like, obviously, I'm like completely in my mind. I'm just like Stamkos to Toronto, Stamkos to Toronto. I was at Wonderland, Canada's Wonderland, in
Wow.
the line for Leviathan, and just completely refreshing my phone over and over and over and over and over again, and just being
Yeah.
like, I need to get. I didn't want to be at Wonderland anymore because I'm like, I need to like be at home, like watching this, like what just happened. Oh my god, I was
Yeah.
going nuts.
You
I
got to
think I was just,
process that.
yeah, I just wasn't talking to anyone in the line. Like I was just like, I was totally just in my phone there. But I remember that being in line for Leviathan.
I'll
Where were you for this
I'll
one? Where were you for
no,
this trade?
I'll tell you one thing. If you were
Okay.
in line at Leviathan 10 years ago in 2016, those 23 minutes probably shaved off a third of the time that you spent in that line because they were routinely hour-long waits to get on that ride. I
Dude, I get
remember.
like I remember where I was in the line. Like you go
Yeah,
straight and then you get the bend into like the little roofed area. Like that's
yeah,
where I was. Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, for this trade that we still haven't,
yeah.
we should
I know
eventually say what the
we should
trade is. But
probably
this
save
one,
it.
we'll get like yeah, everyone
So
knows what the hell we're talking about. But where
this
were
one,
you for this?
I was at home. I was
Yeah,
honestly, I was watching a movie, and as soon as this deal went through and we got all the pieces, I immediately ran up to to my laptop to start making a graphic for Second Look, but I just wanted to like,
Hell yeah.
I also needed to like make sure I had all the pieces
Yeah.
involved because we heard one name and then he wasn't a part of that deal. So to get into the deal, the Carolina Hurricanes acquired forwards Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall from the Colorado Avalanche and the Chicago Blackhawks. In return, the Colorado Avalanche, they got forwards Martin Necas and Jack Drury, as well as a 2025 second-round pick, a 2026 fourth-round pick. Both of those picks came from Carolina. As well, the Chicago Blackhawks, with sending Taylor Hall to the Carolina Hurricanes, they reacquired their 2025 third-round pick, and they will also take on 50% of Rantanen's I believe it's $9.5 million salary, which comes out to about 4.25, I believe, is how much he will count against the cap for the Carolina Hurricanes going forward. Christian, what were your initial thoughts on this deal?
So I'm going to add to like what I was doing when this trade happened is pretty relevant because I was listening to 32 Thoughts and Elliot Friedman and Cal Pikoskis are talking about Kyle Davidson being in attendance for, I think it was for like an Avs game. And they were joking about, oh, is Mikko Rantanen going to Chicago, this and that. And then I stopped that podcast and with like, I got to say within 5 minutes later, this stuff happens. So yeah, that was a pretty hilarious coincidence. But yeah, like initial reaction is holy shit. Sorry, yeah, like that's just what
as well as
we all had that.
of the 95% of the people that saw, I think everybody who kind of understands the implications that this deal has probably said the exact same thing as you.
Yeah, and I hate to do this, but even Elliot did this on like headlines yesterday, in terms of saying, "Oh, Leaf fans want to make it about Leaf fans and whatever, and what does this mean for Mitch Marner?" And he didn't really he didn't give us like new info per se. He just kind of said Marner hasn't pulled no trade. This isn't the same scenario. But like my head immediately went to like, oh my god, what does this mean for Mitch's contract? Oh my god. And the reason I went there too is because like I was thinking, oh, it's got to be an extension involved for Mikko here. But producer Mando giving us a message here. You want to get in here? Let us know where you were when this trade broke.
Yeah, I don't want to be on for too long. You guys are in a good flow state on this trade, but I just found it really interesting where I was. So I was producing SN Tonight for Sportsnet with Roger Lajoie. We had a bunch of guests on, and we had Terry Koshan from the Toronto Sun, who's a beat reporter for the Leafs. He was our only Leafs reporter guest for the night, our only hockey guest for the night. And I'm scrolling Twitter. I'm on the tech board. We're having fun. And I see the Hull trade. And I go, okay, maybe Hull is worth talking about. Maybe it's worth bringing up for Terry just to have a conversation. Maybe not. So I go to the producer. I say, maybe we bring this up, but like maybe we'll see what transpires. And then you refresh. And I saw Elliot's tweet first. You mentioned Friedman there. I didn't see Frank. And then I see Rantanen going to the Canes, and I'm like, okay, hold on. Like, I was like, we all got to calm down.
Gotta listen.
Everybody's got to chill. Nick, tell Roger he's got to bring this up now. A few minutes later, Nick texts Elliot Friedman, and he goes, hey, like, do you have 5 minutes to jump on? And so, long story short, Elliot ended up jumping on for 5 minutes. He originally was going to come on around 9 p.m., and then he texted Nick and said, give me another 10. There's some details here that I don't want to report. They might be wrong. And turns out it was the Kotkaniemi going instead of Jack Drury. So sort of wild stuff. We were able to get Elliot Friedman for 5 minutes live. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I was like, this can't be happening. So crazy stuff. I know our group chat.
How out of breath was Elliot?
You know what? Like, he was as calm as possible. That guy is a machine. I don't understand how he takes in information and sort of compartmentalizes it so well. But he did say 3 or 4 times, he's like, I'm so sorry that I had to delay this. Like, there was a bunch of moving parts. And Roger's like, look, man, like, I'm surprised you even had 30 seconds to give here because this is a Friday night. And obviously you're offering your time. And then, Saturday, Hockey Night in Canada, busy guy. But yeah, he was okay. He was calm, but it was good.
I'm very curious because I'm a part of the SN the chat for Central because
Yeah.
he joined Central. He was on Central that night. They brought him in over Zoom with was with Danielle Michaud, and I'm just very curious to know what order this guy was going because he was probably doing multiple hits for radio. He did it for SN for TV. I'm very curious to know like
Probably
what
got stuff in
other.
like the States,
Yeah, I'm just
right?
so curious. But he was doing everything from home, which is good. Like he doesn't have to
Yeah.
go to different places to do his stuff. So like the Zoom call, like it was a Zoom call, and I could just see his face, and he's like almost pressed up against the camera like this, and he looks like he hasn't slept in like a couple of days. I'm like, oh my God, Elliot's going through the ringer right now. But you know what? Good for him.
I wonder when he gets these trades, for example, and he breaks them, if he's like, if a part of him is like, do I hit send? Because if I do, everyone's going to pull me into 15 different calls and I'm not going to bed. Obviously, he's going to, that's his job, but he must think, man, like this is just the start of something, you know? So
Yeah.
crazy night, but get into it, boys. You guys are in a good shape.
That was
crazy.
fantastic story though, man. Like that was this guy was helping break the trade to people, man. Like you probably you probably got that news across to some people for the first time that they had heard it. So that's incredible. That's a great
Very
story.
true.
Thank
But
you.
yeah,
Thank
like
you.
it was just crazy that in that giant kerfuffle of news, we didn't get extension stuff. Like that's immediately where
Nothing.
my mind went.
Mhm.
And why that's so important is because I think this trade really hinges on, in terms of like winners and losers, completely hinges on if Rantanen stays in Carolina long term, right? Like you give up Martin Necas, a guy who's, what is he, 25, 26?
Yes.
He's on only a 2-year deal. He might expire as a UFA, but this is a guy who you're gonna want to have long term in Colorado. And if you don't have Mikko Rantanen for more than just this one playoff run, it's gonna look kind of iffy in the rearview mirror. If you keep him, like Carolina is a slam dunk winner here, though. It's crazy, like the swing you could have here. Like if you're grading for this season only, it's Carolina by far. And the Taylor Hall aspect, I'll be honest, when I first saw that Taylor Hall part, I'm like, I don't really see Taylor Hall as a good fit in Carolina. He seems kind of like the exact opposite of like a Rod Brindamore type. And then you look at what they like what Chicago got to send him to Carolina was the third rounder that's their own. It's like, okay, you're adding Taylor Hall for free. Yeah, you do that 10 times out of 10. It doesn't matter what team, doesn't matter the fit. But yeah, where did your mind go immediately?
Um, like you, I think one of the first things I said, because I saw the tweet, I think it was from Frege, who said that there was no extension involved. And I think when you're making a deal like this, I personally, if I was a GM, I'd want a guarantee. I want to know that this player is committed to sign long term, and I would have already been having some inkling of a discussion. But I do believe that almost immediately they did start talking. So I think it was more of a matter of let's get the player in first before we start talking about signing long term. But I completely agree, Christian. If this is a one and done for the Hurricanes, if this is, one playoff run like last year when they acquired Jay Gensel at the trade deadline, and they were, I don't know, were they always confident in signing Jay Gensel long term? Like I don't even remember if that
I think
was.
they did feel like they had the inside track there, up until like he signed in Tampa. Like there was lots of talks that they wanted to lock him down, which
To lock him.
in hindsight, it's like that trade was bunting. I don't even think Pittsburgh got a second out of, I mean, a first out of that. I think it was
I don't
more of
think
like
so.
a multi-piece trade. But you just wonder from the Carolina point of view, it's like you could have even went more all in this year, and maybe they still do. But if you kind of consolidate all your assets into this year versus spreading them out over the past 2 years, now maybe that's unrealistic because how many teams really want to put all their eggs in this 1 year basket? Maybe it is smarter to actually spread it out a bit. I do think though, like we were talking about it in our group chat, like whether he's going to sign, like is Carolina going to give him the bag that he supposedly wants? And I do think the answer is yes in the end, because I looked at their just what their cap situation is come July 1st. Like they're gonna have some guys expire, like a Dmitry Orlov, someone else on their blue line as well, Brent Burns. So
Yes.
you're gonna lose Brent Burns and Dmitry Orlov to free agency, or at least you're gonna have to re-sign them if you want to keep them. That seems like a big deal until you look at like who their prospects are. In my mind, immediately when the trade broke, I'm like, oh, the Hurricanes have to be giving up Alexander Nikishin, who's I think their number one prospect. If not, he's one of their best. He's the captain of his KHL team. I think it's SKA or CSKA there. He's the captain of the team, and he's a really young dude, but he is just just everything you want in a defenseman. Like he is a leader. He's a large dude. He's just going to be like the workhorse type, number one type of defenseman, a blue chip prospect. So they still have him in the wings, and they have Scott Morrow, who recently scored a hat trick as a defenseman in the AHL. He's one of their better prospects too. They kept both of them. So you're just going to have these guys immediately step in for Dmitry Orlov and Brent Burns if you don't keep them around. Like it's a incredible scenario that the Hurricanes have worked themselves into, starting with Eric Tulsky, who's basically, he said in his presser after the trade yesterday, he's basically like, we're not done until we've got the 20 best players on our team in the NHL, right? So Tulsky's out here playing. Tulsky's out here playing Chell, right?
Yeah.
He's just working the board.
He's on franchise
got
mode
all
right
the
now.
franchise potentials. Yeah, exactly.
Love that.
Yeah.
The only concern, though, I do have for Carolina is you mentioned the bag, and notoriously, Carolina is not one of the markets to give out the bag. They're not like
that's what I thought as well.
The Leafs. I honestly, I think you immediately mentioned that right away. And by all reports, what was do you remember what the number was being thrown out yesterday? I think it was 13.25 was where the Avs were comfortable with. No.
I think the highest reported number we got out of Colorado is 11.75. It was the highest that we heard.
So they didn't want over Nate Mack. I think what they were, was 13.25 what they were, or 12 point.
12, so 12.6 is what
is
Nate Mack got.
Yeah.
And
there was a number thrown out though.
Yeah, I only saw the 11.75. Maybe we just get into like some of the reaction that came out of this trade. Basically, like if you wanted one word to sum up everyone's comments outside of the GMs, is shocked. I think every single one of the players and coaches used shocked. But Nate Mack basically just him and Bednar echoing the same thing, like just kind of sort of a sad day to lose not only like a great player, but a great person, great teammate. They were kind of blindsided by this one here. And who else we got a reaction from? Chris McFarland, who basically said Mikko's earned the right to be a UFA. And then I don't know if you guys saw this, but this came through this morning. Mikko spoke to a Finnish outlet. I'm gonna pull up some of these quotes because I think by far these are the most interesting.
So I have the main one, and where he said that he's like, I was willing to take a significant cut below my market value. That's why this trade was such a shock to me, which makes me think there was some sort of disconnect between the two sides, or at least between Rantanen and his agent, because if he's saying that, and then they're saying that there was like no common ground being made, or that's what was reported, that there was not enough. This is from Pierre LeBrun, where he said both sides had contract talks this past week, but just not enough common ground was being found between the two sides. And then the Avs, they made that calculation that they were never going to get there on the number. So where is the disconnect? Is it between Rantanen and his agent? Is it between the agent and the Avs front office? What does that quote speak to you?
I actually think that agent and player are on the same page here. I think as much as Mikko's saying it's a surprise to him, I look at the market value quote, and when you read it plainly, like I think you can interpret it many ways. And one of the ways you can interpret it is like, what if Mikko's perceived market value is 14 million?
Yeah,
And
maybe.
then a significant pay cut from there to him might be 13 million.
Yeah.
That's still like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's how I think that's how you end up in that scenario. Kind of reminds me of like what you have going right now on in baseball with Pete Alonso and some of the posturing that's been going on with his agent Scott Boras, who's been doing this every single year. He's been an agent, but you have like the Mets not GM, their owner, Cohen, come out and basically say, yeah, we're not happy with the offer that he's coming to us with. It's not it's a one-sided deal. And it's different in this scenario because this is in season with guys under contract. It's not a free agent, but I kind of think that's what we're seeing here is Mikko can say, oh, I want to take a pay cut for market value. But Mikko, what do you think your market value is? Like, I think that's kind of what we're missing there from the quote. But yeah, I thought by far those comments are kind of the most explosive we've gotten out of the reactions, and this is like a tale as old as time. Like European player gets traded, immediately goes to outlet across seas, doesn't think not maybe he doesn't think it's gonna get picked up, but those are always the best interviews. Always,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
Off season, in season doesn't matter. Yeah, he said honest. This is another Mikko quote from this Finnish outlet. Honestly, I didn't think I'd be traded. I truly believed we'd reach a deal at some point, but they decided otherwise. Lines of communication, like you said, with the team were never completely closed, though we weren't talking daily. He also says about trying to process the trade. It all happened so fast. I didn't get much sleep, and today I had to focus on the game. That would have been yesterday. Maybe it'll hit me harder once I have time to reflect it. Also said he's not sad at all. Time to look forward. And yeah, trade came as a huge surprise to me. Didn't see it coming at all. For the first time, I've now experienced just how ruthless the NHL business can be. It's an interesting one. Yeah, he was ready to negotiate all season. So let's take a look at it maybe from the Colorado Avalanche perspective. What do you think? Do you think it's just as simple as Mikko, this is too big of a number? Or does it get more like philosophical in terms of like roster building? Because to me, that's where I go with it. I'm like, I feel like they just basically said, where is Mikko Rantanen on the pecking order in their team? He's a fantastic player. He's arguably a top 10 player in the NHL, yet he's the third best player on his own team.
Yeah, yeah. It's such when you have like two of the top five players.
It's a goddamn great problem to have.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? You have guys in the running for Art Ross, Hart Trophy, and Nathan MacKinnon, and the Norris Trophy and Cale Makar. Like that's what you want. I kind of look at this as Colorado saying we are not going in the direction of, for example, the Toronto Maple Leafs and committing double-digit money to each of their core members because Cale Makar is going to be coming up here in a couple years. He's going to get a huge deal. What has been the number one problem with the Colorado Avalanche since they won their cup? Lack of depth.
Yeah.
I think that's the direction they're going to be going in here.
For stretches, it also doesn't help when you are down your captain for basically since they've won their cup.
Yeah.
Also, quick note, if you had told any Avs fan after that cup win that would be the last time you see the trio of Mikko Rantanen, Nathan MacKinnon, and Gabriel Landeskog on the same team, would any of them believe you? Probably not. It's just crazy to think about because that was the last time we saw the three of them on the ice together. And also, like, they also had instances with like Val Nichushkin being out of the lineup for long periods last season and even stretches this season. Injuries happen, personal stuff happens, but I think you're completely right. Like, apart from those three in particular, once you get past your top six, there for stretches this year especially, there wasn't much in terms of depth. So yeah, maybe this is a philosophy thing. I think you're selling me on that 100%. Do we want to talk about the other side of the trade, like Taylor Hall's going to be going to the Carolina Hurricanes. Do we have any thoughts on that?
I've got one last thing like on the Colorado side.
Okay,
and
yep, go.
maybe we do a little bit more Carolina talk after our break, but just from a I don't even know what aspect you want to call this here, but I just think it's really interesting that Colorado probably has 3 of the 5 fastest skaters in the NHL now on their team. Nate Mack, Cale Makar, and Martin Necas. Like they're all up there. So I want to see how hard they lean into that. Yeah.
2-on-1s with Nate Mack and Martin Necas is going to be a crazy thing to see, 100%.
Yeah. No, I'm a huge fan of Necas. I think he's going to be a good fit there. I hope they keep him long term. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Colorado does next, because that's what everyone's mind is going to, and everyone's thrown cold water on the Sidney Crosby talk, so I don't know how much there is to get in there. But yeah, like it feels like there's something else coming. What could that be? I'm not too sure. I'm curious to see like Carolina as well. And yeah, we can talk about
they
that.
Definitely have the space now. Casey Mittelstadt hasn't proven to be a top 6 center, or at least a second. They kind of brought him in to be the 2C on that team, and that really hasn't worked out as of today. Yeah, they definitely have the room, and it also kind of seems like they're not done either. We kind of got that inkling when Kevin Weeks, almost like close to an hour after the trade, he posts the bridges in Pittsburgh, and everybody's like, oh my God, it's Sidney Crosby going to the Colorado Avalanche. And it was just like it's so crazy how quick to conclusions people can jump, because it's like, yeah, you post a picture of the Pittsburgh skyline and automatically it's Sidney Crosby going somewhere else.
I will say though, it's like that's like you can't. The Kevin Weeks started a fire there.
Yes,
he didn't have to do that. He did not have to do that.
Right.
And he never has he explained himself. Like has he said, "Oh, I posted it for this reason"? No, he's just gonna leave it there, and he's never gonna acknowledge it in his life.
100%. All Kevin Weeks did was grab the tank of gasoline and chuck it into the fire. On that note, we are just going to take a quick break, and we'll be back for more trade reactions after that. And we're back. Christian, with this deal, and looking at the Carolina Hurricanes lineup now, including Mikko Rantanen, including Taylor Hall, does this make them the class of the East?
You know, I'm looking at this lineup here at forward, because that's where our changes came. But like we can look at this roster here. These are the lines that we've got from yesterday: Rantanen, Aho, Jackson, Blake, son of Leaf legend Jason Blake, Eric Robinson, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and Andrei Svechnikov is the second line. Martinuk, Jordan Staal, Seth Jarvis, third line. Fourth line of Taylor Hall, Juha Jaska, who that is the first time
I'm going to be honest. Yeah, never heard of that guy in my life.
And Jack Roslovic. So I think the first thing that jumps out to me here, he also, Mr. Juha Jaska has no stats for what that's worth. He is the call up for William Carrier, who's now out long term. Mm-hmm. So that is a tough loss, because Carrier is exactly who you want on that fourth line.
You're also down Jesper Fast and Tyson Jost, which is probably why Jackson Blake is playing first line minutes. Not to disparage Jackson Blake. He's actually very good.
He has been really good. 11 goals, which for rookies is up there. But I look at that forward group, and I'm assuming they want to basically try and spread out the wealth there and roll 4 lines. Like, could you imagine, for the sake of comparing to the Leafs, having Taylor Hall on your fourth line? Like,
or having Seth Jarvis on your third line. Like,
my God. Now this comes at the expense of an Eric Robinson on your second line. even like Jesperi Kotkaniemi, who's having a slight bounce back season here. But yeah, Kotkaniemi and Eric Robertson have the same number of points, 24. It's a very interesting way that Carolina goes about it. I'm honestly not too sure if this is the best forward group I've seen out of the Hurricanes kind of in their run here, but from a star power standpoint, they've never had a forward as good as Mikko Rantanen, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And on defense, we know that they honestly are pretty solid there. Jacob Slavin, Brent Burns, Dmitry Orlov, Jalen Chatfield, Goss Despair, and Sean Walker. It's an understated blue line, I'd say. Once again, not the best we've ever seen come out of Carolina. But I mean, as a whole squad, like I'm putting them up there after this trade with the best of the best. It's gonna be about seeing how well these guys gel. If we get kind of that Finnish chemistry going here, what do you kind of see out of this one?
Sorry, just on in terms of Mikko Rantanen, I did see the stat. I might get this wrong because it was a tweet that I saw this as, but I'm pretty sure the Carolina Hurricanes haven't had a player who up until when they made the trade, so it would be over 40, it's like 43, 44 games played. They haven't had a player since Eric Stahl who at this point in the season was more than a point a game.
That's simultaneously a crazy stat and not surprising because like you just run through it in your head and you're like, oh my God. Yeah. I guess.
And they've had great players in this recent run. They just haven't had one guy to be head and shoulders above everybody else, which is what Mikko Rantanen's going to come in here and bring.
Unless, like, just to play devil's advocate, maybe we actually see Rantanen's not play, because I think that's unfair to say, but maybe we see Mikko Rantanen adapt to the Rod Brind'Amour system, and that comes at the expense of a little bit of offense. And maybe instead of seeing Mikko Rantanen influence Carolina, we actually see Carolina influence Mikko Rantanen. So, well, interesting to see there. We'll see exactly what happens. Crazy how a team not even involved in the trade might be the biggest losers in this deal, if you want to get into
that. Yeah. So we did find out yesterday on Saturday headlines that Elliot Friedman, he brought up that it kind of sounded like that Carolina and Vancouver were actually going to be that big trade that was going on with the Canucks looking to get Martin Necas in return for JT Miller. We've talked about the JT Miller and Elias Pettersson situation multiple times, I think, over the past
probably weeks. Like 4 episodes. Yeah.
At least 4 episodes worth of that talk. But they were immediately told no way. So for the Canucks, they're still looking to find a trade partner. We brought up I think it was last episode that JT Miller was nearly a New York Ranger. Carolina were suitors. I think we heard that before, that they were at least interested, but we hadn't heard what the pieces involved were, I think.
Last year we heard about Pettersson for Necas being on the table before Pettersson's extension.
I do remember that. Yes, I do remember that.
Well, that's an interesting one to look at in hindsight. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. So for the Canucks, where do they go from here? Like,
I honestly, I'm at the point where it's like, honestly, just trade them both. Just trade them both. Just bring in like 6 dudes. Like, yeah, I know it's really easy for me to say. But like, go make 2 trades where you're getting maybe a mid-20s roster player, like a guy who's playing in someone's middle 6 who has top 6 upside. Go get a couple third liners, same like just try and basically reset your team philosophy, just like how I'm mentioning with Colorado. Just go the other way. Like, it's
so you want 2 separate Jack Eichel deals for for the Carolina
like,
Hurricanes. Get two
yeah.
versions of Alex Tuch and Peyton Krebs.
I'm saying this half seriously, but honestly, I think I am serious. Like I just look at that team and I actually think you could benefit from as much of a shake up as you can make outside of Quinn Hughes. I even said, I'm like, yo, Brock Besser's a free agent as well. Trade him too. Just
hey, how would you like? Hey, Vancouver Canucks, how would you like a slightly used Max Domi and Nick Robertson for the low cost of Brock Besser?
Low cost.
Low cost.
Yeah, this is great deal. Yeah, like I that's where I'm at. I don't want to talk too much about them, but yeah, what do you think about? Am I off my rocker here?
No. I think at this point it just seems like that whole team needs a shake from the bottom depths of the core up.
Everyone but Quinn Hughes and Rick Tocchet. Everyone else.
Yeah. It's doing nobody any good that every single day there's reporters at the Vancouver practice and after every game and before every game, and it's, oh, well, you might not be on this team after the next 24 to 48 hours. How are you feeling?
The problem is they do have to like do their job like that. Like the reporters are always going to have to ask the reporter questions, and the GM and the front office should probably do the front office thing. And not that they're not, because we just heard about how they were trying to close the deal with Carolina here. They are trying, but this is not going to resolve itself. Like this is not going away until the players physically go away.
Unfortunately, I think at this point, they have to lower their expectations on what they're going to receive because, I don't know, does it fully make sense to ask? No, I mean, you should be asking if you're Vancouver, but does it fully make sense for Carolina in particular to give up Martin Necas for JT Miller when we know now on the flip side that the return could be Mikko Rantanen? Like, you know what I mean?
No shot. Like, and I don't think it's like I don't know if like equivalent deals were on the table, but it's like, oh, Rantanen's available. We can up our offer a little bit here and go and get Mikko frickin' Rantanen. Like that's just that's kind of the logical way.
On that same wave of thought, the Buffalo Sabres were also looking at Elias Pettersson. I don't know how much.
I already forget who
that was
that
out.
Some for each.
Breach had it on. That was another one on Saturday headlines where I kind of was like,
and he originally threw out the Cousins and Byram for Pettersson, and he disclaimed that as just his idea. Not that he heard that from anywhere.
Yeah.
And honestly, when you think about it, it's like Marty Necas. Like, is Dylan Cousins Marty Necas? No, but he's not that. Like, he's probably 75%, let's say, of Marty Necas's value. And maybe you could argue more because Dylan Cousins is RFA status. He's not going to be expiring anytime soon. And Bowen Byram, same idea. Like if they're both 75% of Marty Necas's value, that's 150% of the Necas deal. So when you think about it, it's like that deal should probably not even be on the table right now. Like that would be a coup and a half for Vancouver. That's probably not even a fair deal at this point. I think. I'm all done on this. If we want to get to
it's certainly going to make the here. I have one last question. Are we going to see another trade of note? I'm going to call it because this was obviously a trade of like with the most biggest asterisk you could not asterisk, but like in bold letters. That's a bold letter trade. Are we going to see another trade of equal to lesser note before the Four Nations face-off? I'm not even going to say before the trade deadline, before the Four Nations face-off, which happens in less than a month now. I think it's less than 3 weeks.
So, like, you look at the free agents, and it's like, okay, I don't think Mitch Marner is going anywhere, even if they don't like have a deal done by then. I'm not seeing that. After that, like Mikko Rantanen is obviously he's in the same tier as Mitch, maybe even better in terms of just type of player. There's not really another free agent like that. Like the next rung down might be Nikolai Ehlers, but why is Winnipeg doing that, right? Now, Winnipeg is the type of team I do think like Colorado to be proactive and be like, oh, if we can't get Nikolai Jokic at the number we want, we might as well move him now. They are the type of team to do that. That's kind of the next one. Brad Marchand, maybe, right?
Well,
He's got a
that's
modified
another
no trade.
team. That's another team that does also need a shakeup, but I don't know if trading away their captain is going to be that for
As
them
much
right
of a
now.
shakeup as you can do. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll see. I feel like we're gonna get.
I don't see them doing that though. That's the thing. Even though we did, like, we came on here and we did hear the disputed claims that David Pastrnak and Brad Marchand just don't like each other, but then right after that we heard radio silence. So that
Counterpoint, we also heard Brad Marchand dispute a claim from Elliot Friedman that a contract extension was close earlier in the year. So
yeah. We have no idea. Like, I have no clue what that front office is thinking either. Yeah, I don't know. I want to choose to believe that there's going to be another deal coming through. Like, I think a deal of note will be the either trading of Elias Pettersson and or JT Miller. Like, that's
I think what you're guessing is like surprise trade, like one that we didn't see coming, right? That's more the question.
Probably not.
I don't know.
Doesn't seem like it. Yeah, but it does seem at some point though before the trade deadline that one of two or both of those Vancouver forwards will be on the move. Can't wait to see and talk about what Vancouver did to screw it all up. So we're going to relish in that. I think on that note, we're going to jump into more Leaf talk. Listen, we haven't heard any feedback of you guys not liking Leaf talk, so we're going to keep doing it because, we love to talk about the Leafs and we love to hear people complain about the Leafs as well. So I guess we'll start with the game against the Columbus Blue Jackets on Wednesday Night Hockey. The first thing of note from that game, besides that they got pumped at home by local products. Shout out, big night for Woodbridge that night. Adam Fantilli gets a hat trick in front of, I think he had upwards of 70 people at the game. Luca Delbel Blues, also from Woodbridge. It says he's from Woodbridge. I'm going to call them both Vaughan products because Nobleton, Ontario, Woodbridge, Ontario, they're all a part of Vaughan to me.
Listen, just look at the last name. Okay, they're from here. Okay,
they're from here.
They're from where me and Dave are. Okay,
look at their hair. That's all you need to know. Yeah. Slick back, black hair. They're Italians. Okay, a couple of Italian. Well, Luca Del Bubbaluz is half Portuguese and half Italian. But he actually went to school not too far from us. I'll tell you, I don't know if we want to out where he went, but I do know where he went to high school.
Yeah.
Big note from that game, besides those two having a great showing, was that forward Matthew Necas, he left that game with a upper body injury after taking a hard spill in the second period. He didn't return, but he was at practice the day after, which was a better sign, but he didn't play against the Senators on Saturday. So is this the Leafs just being more precautious, especially with Matthew Necas now having a history of concussions, and he was out for a prolonged period of time earlier this season. He's been injured in the past, had a concussion notably against the Florida Panthers during the Leafs playoff run a couple seasons ago. What do we know about Matthew Necas and what it's going to be like for him going forward?
It was he literally just took like a spill by the I think it was, I don't remember if it was the Leafs bench or the Blue Jackets bench there, but I think he got tangled actually with a ref. It was a bit of like a nothing play at first, but I don't know what to like. The Leafs this year with their injury reporting, whether that's like through PR or through Craig Berube, don't really help us out that much.
Yeah, everybody goes day to day. You could quite literally almost lose a limb on this team and you will be day to day.
Yeah. I think where the conversation goes is like who stepped into his spot, right? So Man, Bobby McMahon. First he steals Matthew Knies' stick last Saturday. Now he steals his job. Left wing number
Yeah.
one beside Matthews and Marner. Yeah, I've continued to be impressed by Bobby McMahon. Even last night in a game where it's kind of a snooze fest against the Ottawa Senators, at least on the ice. Shout out to Leaf fans as always for making the trip to Ottawa and showing out big time. But I mean, Bobby McMahon last night, 7 shots. That is second highest on the season. Only time he had more was against Washington on this is November 13th. He had 8. He played 20 minutes last night.
Was that not an overtime game as well?
This was their first game against them. I can't remember. You know what? You might be right. I think this is the one that they won, where they came back late. Yeah. McMahon also career. Actually, I'm not sure if it was a career high. I would guess it was though. Definitely a season high in terms of time on ice. Over 20 minutes at 20:34. So I gotta say, really encouraged by Bobby McMahon now stepping up in someone else's absence. Matthew Knies.
Mm-hmm.
The shot just looks as good as it ever has. I'm curious if it is still Knies' stick or if he's stolen some of his specs. It does look a little bit more whippy. We'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's kind of the story there. But like back to that Wednesday game against Columbus. Did you have any thoughts from just the two two events that happened in the first period there that I think were of note, right? That everyone was talking about.
Do you want to start with the stick grab or do you want to start with the fight?
Do you have anything on the stick grab that you want to point out that what? Yeah.
No, personally, I just I think we even have it in the notes. Have you seen anything like this before? No, I haven't, quite frankly.
It's funny though, because I also put it in the notes. Did you see the Jonathan Quick and Brady Tkachuk one from this week?
There was another one? Oh, so there was another one. Yes,
Jonathan Quick took Brady Tkachuk's stick and was trying to use it upside down.
Yeah.
So first it's like, wow, this is a once in a I've never seen this before. Meanwhile, happened the same week. So
yeah, I think it happened in back-to-back days.
Yeah, I did see like someone put out the how many goals does Matthews score with the goalie stick? I don't know, 2. I don't know.
They were on the intermission report on TNT. They were Paul Bissonnette was using the goalie stick to try to to shoot, but I think they were using it in terms of getting the goalie goals. And dude, Paul missed the net, missed high and wide, and this guy just cracked another panel on that beautiful set that they have on TNT. He really does himself no favors with that.
I don't know how well that would go over at Hockey Night in Canada. Reach he was smacked on those panels. We might see that broken. I don't know, for a while. I don't really have anything there other than just crazy thing. I was at that game, and one thing I paid attention to after, I honestly think 7 or 8 sticks were broken in that game. But I will say I paid extra attention to Bobby Hastings on the Leafs bench, who does this every game. But I don't know if I've ever kept my eye on it at the actual arena. Just him switching between everyone's stick while they're on the ice is insanity.
It is insanity.
Because then I compared him directly to the Columbus guy, and I'm like, this brother's just standing around. Bobby's going to work.
You have to get a seat beside them. I want to see up close and personal. I need you to record for me a Bobby Hastings. Don't even watch the game. Just watch Bobby Hastings kind of going around. Another thought on that. I don't know if you even yesterday. It's kind of felt like for the past 2 games. I think between the game against Columbus on Wednesday and the game yesterday against the Sens, dude, 15 sticks must have been broken just on the Leafs end. Because they had that goal against yesterday where they were literally down 2 people they were down 2 people with no sticks. So it was basically playing a 4-on-2, I believe. Crazy, ridiculous, guys. Get some.
I hope we can get
something.
We need next year some NHL data on tracking broken sticks. I wonder if Sport Logic or something has that. I would love that because I talked about I think I mentioned it to you guys maybe 2, 3 weeks ago. Like the NBA has like skeletal data tracking where people were able to see how long Bradley Beal spent tying his shoes on the season. I need just like crazy crap like that in hockey. That would
Good
be
tracking
incredible
data.
stuff. Just tell me like which player has broken his stick the most
Which
times on
team?
the season, which team, what like obviously I'm guessing slap shot is the most broken, like the shot that breaks the most sticks,
Or
but
I notice a lot more on shot blocks. Like
sure.
if you're in the
Yeah.
crouch and it goes off like that end
Yeah.
where like just below the bottom hand and it ricochets off of that, it kind of just like
Yeah.
bends forward. So
In
just
Formula One, people like to joke of there's two championships in Formula One, Drivers' Championship and Constructors' Championship. But people love to joke about the Destructors' Championship. Who crashes their car the most and how much money did it cost their team? We could have that in hockey. Give me a
we could.
Destructors Stick Championship. Who spent the most, who wasted the most money for their team on hockey sticks? And obviously it's a drop in the bucket compared to Formula One. Like you're talking about like multi-million-dollar expenses when you break a car in Formula One. Not really the same case in hockey, but I mean, sticks ain't cheap. $400 a pop. So I don't know. I would like to see that. We're
Christian,
jumping all over the place here.
I got one
Yeah,
question for you. How
yeah.
privileged do you feel to be in attendance for a once in a lifetime event or once in a season event?
What is the what
You
is the
got to
once
see
in a
Ryan
season?
Reaves fight.
Ah, there you go. It's good. That's good. Yeah, man. And it came after me going all conspiracy theory last episode too, where I'm like, this damn guy's not getting a fight because the league's out to get him, this and that. Matthew Olivier too, like he spoke before the game he spoke about the Reeves Jacki stuff. And basically said like anytime is a good time to fight.
Yeah.
And then he backed it up, right? So kudos to Matthew Olivier, who I think might be everyone's favorite fighter in the NHL currently. First, he takes down Rempe last year. Now he's potting some goals. Like, there's
Got 11
nothing to
goals
not
on the
like
year.
about him. Yeah,
He's
like,
got 20 points. He's ridiculous.
everyone's talking about him on trade boards. Like, I don't think Columbus is letting that guy go.
No.
Mind you, he is exactly the type of guy that you could get a ransom for.
Yeah.
But that's one actually where
Maybe
you keep him.
He is what people think Tanner Jeannot is.
Yeah, it's funny how all three of these guys went to Tampa, but all three of these guys were overpaid for by Tampa. Blake Coleman, Barclay Goodrow, and Tanner Jeannot, right?
Two of them won cups.
Two of them worked out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Let it all out, pal.
Jesus. I like it's funny how I just like only sneeze during this show. It's great. Anyways, yeah, I actually have this thought. This is like I wanted to actually go like way more serious on Leafs here. This has actually just turned into like random stuff, but we're already at this point. Matthew Olivier, I just had this thought. I'm like, we need a line at some point of Nicolas Deslauriers, William Carrier, and Matthew Olivier. You just think about how all three of those guys, but they're all just the same guy.
Yeah.
Like they're all the French Canadian guy who can absolutely destroy you in a fight and pot some goals. Like they're all actual hockey players on the side of being just rock'em sock'em dudes. So
yeah, you could also call that line the French Connection, and it's not like the original French Connection because this
like you got to put a spin on it though.
This French Connection means that they're just connecting with your jaw.
Yeah, it's good. No, that's really good. Maybe just the French. This is a good one actually. The French clothesline.
Ooh,
it is a line. I don't know.
That is a line. Yeah, what
anyways,
team would have that
has
line?
nothing to do with the Leafs. Yeah, it has nothing to do with the Leafs. But anyways, I want to say just about that fight there. Nick Kyprios brought this up on Real Kipper and Born this week. After the day after the game, he was just like, I hated that fight because it was just completely staged. It was very much hockey game. Oh, here's the fight. Now back to the hockey game. Mm-hmm. And Kipper made the point, you need more of a natural, there needs to be more naturally occurring fights. Too many fights these days are manufactured, in his opinion. I honestly agree with him there. And I just, this is hypocritical of me after what I said about Reaves and, you know, he's been trying this and that. to like stage a fight, but
The
that's
flip
kind of
side
where
of
my mind
that
went.
though, the flip side of that though is that the rules that have gone against fighting have made fights now all performative because of the rules like the instigator penalty, right? Because
Yeah,
if you lay a hit and somebody doesn't agree with it, they're also going to be getting an extra two, and they're putting their team at a disadvantage. So it kind of warns away from. It does its job in practice, right? Like it does. But
it's just
then
this is
on
the
the
consequence. Yeah,
this is the here is the consequence.
yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I am not a fan of performative fights, but when you get a heavyweight tilt, you just have to, like, when you
Yeah.
watch the fight and it's something as beautiful as that. No punches were connecting, but it was just two guys just absolutely chucking knucks. Guys,
It's a long
like,
one too. Yeah, it was a good one.
yeah,
Um,
it was worth the wait,
yeah.
basically.
Let's wrap up Leafs with just we did this a couple weeks ago too, where we actually decided we're just like we won't talk Leafs. They lost a couple bad ones in a row here. It's just two losses here. The 5-1 loss to Columbus, and now Ottawa 2-1.
Yep.
Offense a little bit dried up. Sleepy game in Ottawa. I thought yesterday. It's funny.
That's
The Columbus one was actually Leafs were the better team. They had a bunch of chances. Dennis
100%
Hildeby was not it.
bad.
Matt Murray's here now. We'll see what he can do for us. But I don't know, what is your outlook on the week ahead for the Leafs, where they only play Minnesota on Wednesday, and then we've got the Oilers on Saturday. How you feeling right now?
Yeah, I'm not feeling as bad as I was after that 3 game stretch, especially like then hearing the quotes come out after, because then we saw how they responded. And I'm not feeling like that game yesterday against Ottawa in particular, like they played right into Ottawa's hand, because over Ottawa's last stretch, it was made a lot of that Ottawa has been shut out. I believe it's 5 times in the month of January. But what people also don't realize is that they've also shut out multiple teams during the month of January, and they've also limited the other teams. Like, they've had multiple 1-0 games, 2-1 types of games. They're playing very low event hockey, and the Leafs just walked right into that trap. And that's kind of like, that's the worrying sign. It's that, like, that team is going to play like that, and you continue to do
You
the
want the Leafs
same.
to dictate the play. You don't
Yeah,
want to. Now here's the counterpoint to that is this
they've
is
never have
that
though.
yeah, and well, the other thing too is the blueprint for this year was that you're supposed to win those games.
Yeah,
And we've been seeing the blueprint kind of change recently, where they mentioned on the broadcast, I think it was the last 7 games before last night, the Leafs have allowed 3 or more goals. We were winning some of those, but that is not what this team was supposed to look like this year, right? Um, they also brought up a board of Joseph Wall's stats. I think just going back to the start of January, where he has faced, he's among the leaders in shots faced. He is among the leaders in wins as a goalie, but basically he's being put to work in Anthony Stolarz' absence, and the Leafs have simultaneously seen less offense these past couple games, and that can be forgiven a bit because of no Knies and no JT. But when that's the case, you cannot let up defensively, and we've seen that be the case. Morgan Riley's been the leader on that front in terms of
yeah.
not being up to snuff defensively, but yeah, even just some of the depth I think is showing its warts right now, like a Philippe Myers, Simone Benoit, Connor Timmins. When half of your
If
D core features those guys, it's tough. You're
if
gonna be
we're
in
gonna
for a
be
rough one.
honest, also the lack of scoring, dude. Max Domi, Nick Robertson, in particular, we saw Bobby McMahon make that jump to the first line yesterday.
And he
If
scores. It really goes back to like McMahon is the driver. He was the driver on that line with Domi and Robertson. It feels like.
Dude, how quickly is it that now Bobby McMahon is ahead of those two in particular in terms of pecking order on this team? Like, that should have been a spot that went to like Max Domi in a better time. I know they don't have any centers right now, and you probably need Max Domi to take a couple draws, but Willie can do that. Like there's
And you've
guys
also
on the
been
team.
like putting Holmberg at 2C. Like they actually in JT's absence haven't been playing Domi too much down the middle because that's how little they want him there, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what the fix is with Domi right now. I really don't. Like I almost think like I almost think
can
you
be
just
at
leave him to
center.
his own devices and like he needs to work it out. Like you almost try to operate as a team without the success of Max Domi until he's a guy who needs to go into the cabin in the wilderness while playing for this team though.
Yeah.
Like every time he's not on the ice, he needs to be thinking about what's going wrong here and how do I fix it. I kind of put this fully on him right now.
Yeah, the lack of depth scoring like reared its ugly head yesterday. There was a 2-on-1 between David Kampf and Nick Robertson, and David Kampf just sauces the maybe the worst pass of the season. He puts that pass right into Nick Robertson's like front skate, and Nick Robertson's kind of reaching back for the 1T, and then Nick Robertson does a somersault over the puck trying to get it. I'm just like, yeah, like that is
That sums it up.
If there's one play to sum up the Leafs' lack of depth scoring, it's that right there. Yeah, it's not looking good. We know. I mean, there's multiple things now. Like we've said it where it's like, oh, we know the clear cut. Like this is what the Leafs need. Like at forward, they need another center 100%. But also now we're finding out that they also might need to also grab a defenseman as well. And it's like
I'm mentally preparing. Yeah. I'm mentally preparing myself for another go. Like they're gonna just get Ilya Lyubushkin and Connor Dewar of this year. Yeah. I think that's kind of what our deadline's gonna be. And I kind of don't. This is the thing. It's like you look around the East, and I guess until Carolina really stepped up their game, the Leafs could be like top of the not just the division but the conference, just in terms of contenders if you're ranking them. But I kind of look at next year and say that's more of an all-in year than this one. When you have a cap that's going up to $97 million, you have Tavares going to take a pay cut, assuming he stays here. Even with the Marner increase in the contract, I actually just think they have way more flexibility to do something creative in the summer or at next deadline than they do this year. I really think this is going to be a work around the edges, and it's really just going to come down to the core, like it has in like 5 of the last 7 years. It's not going to be about the supporting cast. It's going to be can the core kind of carry you? And honestly, maybe part of it does come down to Bobby McMahon because we've missed him in the past 2 playoff series. Or years of playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Last thing I've got on Jacob Quillen there.
Yeah, go.
It's not much of a thought, but obviously the knee on knee with Nick Cousins. I haven't got like fired up for like just something like that in a little bit. Like just a guy in his NHL debut getting clipped just like that, and for Nick Cousins I know he didn't return to the game, and he might legitimately have injured himself there. It's a little tough to have remorse when that was very much like he tried to get a piece of him. And BX mentioned maybe it wasn't intent to injure, but I mean you can't pretend like he didn't.
He was going to
blindside him.
He was going to blindside Jacob Quillen. Like that's like I know keep your head on a swivel at all times, especially in the big leagues, but like that's the guy's second shift in the big leagues. Like, come on, like what a POS move from Nick Cousins.
And that's his MO. He is
that is his MO.
That's absolutely what he is. Last thing on Jacob Cole, like I obviously like I can't form an opinion on a guy after that one game. I don't know if you had any actual hockey thoughts on him there.
I did put money down for him to score because it was in his hometown.
Yeah,
technically his hometown.
It all lined up there.
Yeah.
He feels like he's another one in the long line of Leafs who have been the most fourth liners to ever fourth line, like Adam Brooks and Nick Abruzzese and Alex Steves.
Bobby McMahon at one point.
That's what I wanted to bring up. Once upon a time, Bobby McMahon was the most fourth liner to ever fourth line until he wasn't. So we'll see what happens there.
Yep. On that note, I think that's it for the Leaf talk. We're going to take another just quick break, and then we're going to come back for some quick hits. And welcome back We brought producer Mando in just for this last quick hit section. So I'll start us off here. It came out, they had asked Logan Thompson about not being called up for Team Canada amidst his unbelievable stretch. I believe he's only lost like 4-5 games on the season. Like he's been a fantasy darling pickup for me. I'll say that flat out. I picked him up pretty early on, and he's just been an absolute stud. It was kind of shocking though to hear that he went on record to say that Team Canada didn't even reach out to him. They didn't even call him to consider joining them for the Four Nations face-off. And guys, I just want to know, are we going to see World Juniors Part 2 at the Four Nation face-off this year?
I kind of started to get that feeling, like just the vibes around it aren't great. That Logan Thompson stuff, I think it actually came out before what I'm about to reference, but I had listened to him live on the Fan Hockey Show. And they talked to him basically just about that off the top of the interview. Just A, were you contacted? B, how do you feel about that? And dude was like an ultimate pro with his answers. Said no, wasn't contacted. Also, don't think I'll be contacted if anyone gets injured, because they had said when the team was announced that they've already let those guys know who they are to be on alert if someone gets injured, and I wasn't one of them. And yet still he said he's got not that he doesn't have hard feelings. That's the wrong way to phrase it, but he said he's still going to be cheering for Canada at the Four Nations, just like a total stand-up response there. And just listen to the rest of that interview. Like I had nothing to take away from that interview that led me to believe this guy has a reason to have not been in consideration on that roster. And even if you want to say hindsight's 2020, and at that time, maybe he would have been in the mix, but it would have been arguable to say, okay, we're going to go with these more established guys. I mean, even then they're not really established who we have, but it's just, I don't see the reason why Logan Thompson isn't on at least the to be called up if someone gets injured list. Like how did that happen?
That's why it's so confusing. Like you assume that you got a guy like Nick Suzuki that was in a similar position, and the discussion was that he didn't attend the World Championships last winter, and I guess that sort of rubbed the front office the wrong way. That could be interpreted a couple of different ways, but at least there's an explanation as to why he didn't get called, whereas a situation like this just sort of has all of Canadian fans wondering what the heck went wrong here. And my mind first went to this when he wasn't chosen, even before hearing about that Fan Hockey Show. And this is all speculative. I have no reason to believe this is the case, but is it like a character issue? Is it an issue where maybe, the front office, Doug Armstrong, the whole team has been like, well, we've heard rumblings that he's not the best locker room guy. And I don't know if that's true whatsoever, but I agree with you, Christian. Listening to that interview, he seemed very pro about it, whether he was coached or not through that interview. It was like, he sounded like a consummate pro. And it's one of those things where I've sort of stayed away from the complaining about like those depth forwards or 5, 6, 7 defensemen and saying, oh, we should have taken so-and-so instead, because ultimately it's a 4-game tournament if you do make it to that final game, and these decisions won't matter. But A, when it comes to goalies, it absolutely does matter. And B, it's not like Thompson probably wouldn't be the third. Like he would probably start based on his recent numbers. Like you posted, Christian, I think a tweet from Stephen Ellis basically suggesting that Logan Thompson's basically first in the league since being snubbed from that Four Nations roster December 4th, I think was when that decision was made. In first and essentially,
I've gone ahead and bring it up right now. Since December 3rd, in terms of goalies who've played at least 10 games, because Linus Olmark's played 8 and he's got a 963. And there's also Stolars is there with 944 in 3 games. Holberg 947. Anyways, Thompson, in terms of goalies who played at least 10 games, 15 games played, 12 wins, 938 save percentage. Number 2 is Darcy Kemper at a 934. And number 4 after Dobesh is Mackenzie Blackwood, who I know you've gone to bat for, Mando, on Second Look Sports. So you have the top three of the top 4 goaltenders in save percentage since the naming of that team are Canadian, and aren't of the three that were originally named.
That's tough. So a tough decision for
Multiple-
Canada either way, but just it looks bad now, especially with all that's gone about.
Logan Thompson, I think in that stretch also has like 4 shutouts. I know he had 2 in 1 week a couple weeks ago as well.
He's got 2. He's got 2 right now.
He's only got 2? Okay.
Yeah. Still, but like, and maybe he's probably like at 4 on the year.
Yeah, and another thing too to also like I know Amanda
just the 2 on the year.
Just the 2 on the year.
Okay.
You also brought up that you didn't want to like squabble about like the extra forwards, but like this kind of also goes back to Mark Scheifele not being named to the team, and he's one of the top point producers in the league right now. Kind of seems like he's like the consummate Team Canada guy. Like I remember him at the juniors. Everybody was raving about Mark Scheifele. You know, he's not on the team, but you get somebody like Sam Bennett, who since being announced to the team has gone through one of his toughest stretches in terms of point producing and goal scoring since he got to Florida. Like, it really haven't seen struggles like that since he's been on like Calgary, basically. So, yeah, it kind of feels like we're about to have another Hockey Canada summit in a few weeks. The vibes
are just weird.
The vibes are very weird. But you know, Connor McDavid can just go off for 20 points in 4 games, and then we're okay. So who knows? The next thing I wanted to get into, if you guys didn't have anything else on that subject, the Utah Hockey Club.
Sorry, Dave. Let's actually do Markstrom because this actually is.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, let's.
You know what? That makes sense as well. So Jacob Markstrom, he was injured on a game that came out January 24th, so it would have been Wednesday as well.
The Bruins.
So Wednesday, he was who was rushing into?
I think it was Justin Brazo who
you might be
took
right.
him out there. Yeah,
was rushing to the net and kind of caught an edge and took Jacob Markstrom hard into the post. I unfortunately had to like cut some video for that night, and I got all the second looks that you could imagine. And there was one in particular that I saw, and it was kind of like on the side of the net, and you could just see his leg kind of wrap around the post, and it was ugly, for lack of a better term. He's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks with an MCL sprain, so he's going to miss the rest of the Devils games heading into the Four Nations face-off. Then it's undetermined right now if he's going to be ready to get back into action after. But what does this mean in particular for, let's start with Sweden and then the implications on his club team for the Devils going forward as well?
Sweden's also missing, Linus Ullmark is on his way back, and like he's going to probably get some games here before Four Nations, but that's potentially 2 question marks in that. I'm just looking to see like who the hell comes in to replace those 2. Yeah, you do.
Sorry,
you do have, but like you have Phil, which is good. After that though, like you're going to Marcus Hogberg, who's played 7 games this year, 947 in 7 games, so it's pretty good. I don't know. Where are you going after that? Like you might be going to like a prospect. Like you might be going to like a Jesper Wallstedt, or Eric Portillo played a singular game in the NHL this year. Like that's kind of where you're going here.
I think it was. I think
the Islanders.
It was suggested, Christian. I think that Sammy Ersson would step in.
True,
but
yes,
is that better? Yeah, I mean, okay,
891 in 26 games.
Yeah, he's had a real rough stretch. Dating back to even last year as well. Yeah, it's not great. I mean, like, listen, like you're quite literally going to be down 2 of the top 20, let's say, goalies in the NHL. I would say top 15, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
Arvid Soderblom, 906.
The one thing I'll say for the Swedes is that it is only a 4-game series.
Yes.
So if Philip Gustafsson can just hold out for all 4 games, max 4 games that he could play, this conversation is almost null and void. But it would be nice to have a little bit of insurance, especially I also have I have all the goalies that we talked about. I have Blackwood, I have Logan
Markstrom?
Thompson, and I have
Thompson, yeah.
no, and I have Philip Gustafson.
Yeah.
Philip Gustafson hasn't had a great stretch of games recently as well. Like he was electric. He was awesome for, I'd say, the first 3 months of the season. Since the new year flipped, though, he's kind of had a bit of a sput. He's hit a bit of a sputter, rudder, whatever you want to call it. So, I mean, if Gustafson kind of gets lit up in one of those first couple of games, you probably want somebody like Jacob Markstrom there to carry the load. That's a veteran guy. He's in his 30s now. Been around the block. Yeah, it's a tough one for the Team Sweden to take. And then also now looking forward, the New Jersey Devils, they need him back ASAP. They have Jake Allen in backstopping him right now, like in relief, but you probably want Jacob Markstrom. The guy's been your rock all season, and because of it, the New Jersey Devils, they're back near the top of the Eastern Conference standings. What does this mean now for them going forward?
I'm looking at the Metro. I just want to jump in on the Metro, like all those red teams filling those 1, 2, 3 spots with the Caps, Canes, and then the Devils third. And we talked earlier about how Carolina made such a big splash. Are they the toast of the East? And then like you see that from a Devils perspective, days after Markstrom goes down for 4 to 6, not ideal. So I think it means panic mode a little bit. And the Devils always seem to be in this position with their goalies. Like I can't think of the last time before Markstrom that they had a number one guy besides Brodeur. Yeah, Schneider that kind of filled the net for a while, and maybe I'm missing someone, but like this has always been their MO. And it feels so tough for them after such a decent start to the year that they faltered up and down. But it's just going to be tough. I think Jake Allen's proven for a couple of years that obviously earlier in his career, he could play the starter role for a position of time. Now, I don't know if that means the entire rest of the year. If I'm the Devils organization, I don't know, again, what the timeline is in which if Markstrom were to come back for the Four Nations, if there was even an inkling that he could, I'm shutting that down. If I'm the Devils brass, there's no need to sort of re-aggravate something in an international tournament that's not the Olympics. And so I just think at the end of the day, give them some time to rest. Hopefully they can hold down that third position. Outside of that, Columbus is kind of marching up, but I do think that they'll be able to at least go 500 in his absence. It's just a blow to a Devils team that had a tough year last year and seemed to fill the gap. And now they're sort of back where they are last year. And hopefully they can hold water until he comes back.
I've got 2 reasons why I think that they're going to be okay.
Okay.
Number one, this is nothing new for Sheldon Keefe. He had his fair share of starting goaltenders going out, whether that's Freddie Anderson, Jack Campbell, Joe Wall. He's been there and done that. Samsonov, Matt Murray, like
Peter Mrazek.
Basically every single goalie who's played for the Leafs in even like a split 1A, 1B role has gotten injured while Sheldon Keefe was a coach. I think he knows how to adapt his or just how to get his team to play a tighter brand of hockey when that happens. And just proof, like putting proof of the pudding here. Shots against per game in the NHL. Devils are third, only 25.7 shots against per game. That is behind LA and Carolina. So some usual suspects there, but the Devils are pretty good at suppressing shots or shot attempts. So I have not too much concern, and that's why the Jake Allen plus Markstrom move looks so smart. They shored up both holes here. It's another thing if it was Akira Schmid coming in as the starter role. But Jake Allen's been here and done this as well. I think they're going to be fine. I think they're fine.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, especially to have somebody like Jake Allen, who's just been a consummate vet everywhere that he's been. He's been a real backbone piece for a lot of teams.
One of the ultimate, like just in terms of like since he started his career, one of the ultimate like split starter guys, like 1A, 1B type of guys. Like he's 100%. Just made for that role.
Yeah, he really is. And you know what? I think he'll thrive, at least until the break and potentially a little bit, hopefully not for too much long after, but I do kind of foresee let Jake Markstrom get back to 100% if you're not sinking, basically, before maybe like risking re-aggravating something or like re-aggravating that injury. If you have to ride Jake Allen a little bit longer, there's not many backups in the league to have a better position where you can kind of ride them a little bit longer. So yeah, I mean, fortunately for them, they really lucked into a great situation there. And that's honestly what they were going for when they made the Jake Allen deal last year and then signing Markstrom in the offseason. Lastly, if you guys have any other thoughts, we can move on to Utah.
Yep. All good.
Yeah, we're good. Okay. So the Utah Hockey Club, the Utah Hockey Club, they are facing name change problems. It was the United States Patent and Trademark Office that shut down the thought of them using the Yetis as their team name, just due to a likelihood of confusion with the Yeti cooler brand, which is, it's really, really funny because if you take a quick Google search, type in Stanley Cup on on Google, guess what comes up first, guys? It's not the thing that you're lifting over your head after 3 months of hard work. It is a big for nothing giant ass pink cup that you see, that your mother has one, your sister probably has one, your girlfriend has one, every woman you know has a Stanley Cup, and it's not the ones with the engravings on the side. So it's very funny. Honestly, to me, it seems very like bureaucratic. You know what I mean? Like I think if they really want the Utah Yetis brand, and a big reason for this is because if they start putting merchandise out that says like Yetis on the front, there is a chance to have confusion, but it's like, how funny if it's like you buy tickets to like a Yetis game and you just see like a bunch of like coolers on the ice, Yeti brand coolers. It's like, that's not what I paid for. I wanted to watch a hockey game. It's like, no, that's not what it means. But yeah, it's very like high level politics stuff that it sucks. But I think Utah's gonna fight for the name that they want, and it does kind of seem like the Yetis name is one that they really want to look at going forward.
I wonder if if the Yeti cooler brand doesn't have a problem with it, if they could just go to the patent office and be like, hey, it's all right, I'm chilling. I don't know if that's how this works or not. Sorry, I'm not fluent in patent law, but
so another thing too, though, is if you have two brands that have a similar type of name, if something happens to one brand, so one of them goes through like a PR nightmare, there is the fear that the other one by proxy kind of faces similar challenges just because of the name. So that is why like they have stuff like this. And I get it. It does make sense, but it doesn't, because it's like, this is a hockey team. The other one's like, they make coolers. So
I honestly thought they would have like collabed if this went through. Like I honestly thought for sure we were going to see something awesome. Like, I thought this was going to be like a home run. Just makes so much sense. Coolers, like hockey, like they go hand in hand. Like trailer, like just like everything makes sense to me in my head, but obviously not on paper. I don't know what the pivot is now for a name, because I was so sold on Utah. I was all in.
They another thing that I should mention that I didn't mention before, they also had other names that were denied, including the Utah Blizzard and Utah Venom. So obviously the confusion with the Blizzard is the Dairy Queen item. I think
oh my God.
And then the confusion with the Venom is the Marvel character.
The Marvel character.
Right? So it's very funny how like honestly, all of those names sound great in my head, but then like coming to think about it, where you just if you take the sports out of it, like the hockey out of it in general, I can see where the argument is made, but it's just so funny to think of somebody getting confused of like a blizzard from Dairy Queen and like the Utah blizzard. Like that is what it comes down to. It's like very matter of fact, like this is black and white. Basically, like you have the same name as something else that's a very popular product, but it's just so funny to think of.
I'm gonna suggest though, my thought here before hearing Dave that they had other names basically blacklisted was I like the Utah Outlaws. Like I liked Yetis first. I think I would have assumed if you could put Yetis like instead of the Utah Yeti, that even that extra S should like solve the problem. You would think.
Yeah,
whatever.
maybe.
Again, patent law, like we're sports journalists, so what do we know about that? I like Outlaws.
Not
I think
much.
it's fine. Just pick
I
a
like
name.
Outlaws too.
Just
give me a name.
See, you know me, like jersey and branding is everything. Like it needs to stick. Like I bought in on Golden Knights pretty quickly. Like their branding was pretty good off the hop. They sold me on it, color scheme, logo, the whole shebang. Kraken, I was less positive towards to begin, but I'm sold on the branding. They've done a good job with it. I can get with it. Like you need to make sure this is good. I hate Utah HC as the name. I really hope they don't just go with that. Like I know Free just put it out there before. He said, "Yeah, just stick with it. It's cool." No,
they can't.
No.
There's not enough
Sucks.
merchandising options. Like if you have a Yeti, you have something built in to market around. You have your mascot there. You have potential.
No, but like soccer does it. Like soccer gets by with it. They do. It just doesn't feel
soccer doesn't. Manchester United has their name, their nickname is the Red Devils. So their mascot is Fred the Red. He's a big red devil mascot, which beyond me how they got that one through, if I'm going to be completely honest. And they have toys that are like little reds and they call themselves the Red Devils. Yeah, sure. I know, I understand completely, but there are also ways to kind of like get around that. Like, I don't know, what do we call the Utah HC, their nickname, the Mormon Munchers? Like, what do you want to?
The Utahns.
Terrible.
Yeah, it sucks.
It does suck. It really does.
I don't even care about the toys for the kids or whatever. Screw the kids. It's just gotta be cool. Like it's just gotta look good on the goddamn ice, and it doesn't work right now.
They already have, I think, a great color scheme.
I was really just gonna say that. I love it.
I love those colors, dude. That light blue with the black and the white. I think they can create something very, very eye-popping. I saw that look there, Christian. What do you have against it? What do you got for me?
Okay. I'm not against it. It's just I just really do like those throwback Utah Jazz jerseys with the purple involved in this color scheme. Now the question is like, do you want to make it like, can you go full copycat with that? Maybe not. Maybe you have to go with something more original. So I don't hate what the color scheme is right now. I don't hate it.
I think the way you get around that is by making a third jersey with like a purple infused in there, and you kind of collaborate between, because both of those teams are owned by the same person. So I think
that's why you probably could.
Ryan Smith, he's gonna try to cross collaborate with the two of them, and which is so smart because the Utah Jazz are beloved by the city of Salt Lake, and the Utah Hockey Club, I hope, and I think they already are, they look to have like a great fan base built in, and they look like they're ready
promising
to
future
embrace.
On the ice.
Yeah, they have a very promising future on the ice, especially they look like they're ready to embrace that team. So yeah.
Do you like Mando's suggestion for Outlaws? Because I don't mind it. It's probably in terms of like, it's up there.
The only reason why I love it is because I love Red Dead Redemption. Like it's genuinely one of my favorite games of all time, both 1 and 2. So if they can do anything related to like Red Dead Redemption, and I don't even know, you just make them a cowboy, your mascot, and
the Utah rootin' tootin' Cowboys,
the rootin' tootin' John Marstons, like
Outlaws,
love that.
I can
get behind it.
I can see the mascot being just like a guy. Like they don't have, they have to you dress him up, but he's
basically
just sprinting around the stadium, and you have like 25 cops or whatever trying to wrestle. Like, you know what I mean? Like they can make a lot of
not even cops. Give me sheriffs.
Give me sheriffs.
Sheriffs running.
The Utah Sheriffs?
Like a
Let's
bank
get
robber.
Elmer Fudd out there.
Give me the bandito look with the mask on. Give him a lasso. There's so many, but I think that about most of the names on the list, like the mammoth, like obviously you kind of theme it around like a woolly mammoth. That would be kind of cool. Like I could see like instances. I don't know what you would do for the venom. Like I don't know what. Maybe a big spider. Like that's.
It'd be maybe a snake, like a
snake.
rattlesnake.
Yeah. The Yeti is just like so like perfect. Like that is. I
know. It would.
Like they have everything there for that. But I love the Outlaws too.
I think they basically just have to get a list of like 6 names that they think are the best contenders left, put it to a fan vote for next year.
I'm down.
Kind of think that at this point,
not even next year.
This many times.
I think this year. I think they got to do it.
No,
right
like
now.
4. You think they can't change mid-season, right? Like that won't happen
for the coming season.
If they put it for like a vote for like the summer, then we're not getting.
Yes. Yeah,
I think they want. I think they want
time for.
They want that name to be ready for next season. That is the thought. So, give me a John Marston Utah Hockey Club collaboration, and I'll be so happy.
My instantly nostalgia throw out there that this won't happen. But like. My 5-year-old brain would tell me make it the Utah Raptors because there's that's an actual dinosaur's name, a raptor found in Utah. You can't do that because there's a team here that's got that name.
I mean, there are teams across all of sports that have
that's true.
That have similar
Giants, Jets.
Nickname. Those are the big ones. The nicknames. So
Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that might be lower on that list as much as how cool the Raptors would be.
My 5-year-old brain would love that, but I don't think that one's making the list.
Collaborate with Toy Story. There's going to be a new Toy Story movie coming out soon. Collaborate with them. Have Woody as your outlaw if you decide to go with the outlaw theme.
I was trying to figure out. I'm like, wait, what's the connection here?
Yeah, shout out to the Outlaws.
There you go. Yeah,
I don't think he was an outlaw, but. Yeah, shout out to the Cowboys.
Just call them the Utah Light Years. Let's go. Let's do that.
Yeah, Utah Light Years. Do we have any other thoughts?
I think that's.
I'm out of thoughts.
Good.
Put it to a vote.
Yeah,
Get it out there.
Put it to a vote. I do like that. I like fan feedback. On that note, for Cristian Ceniti, for producer Alex Mandarino, I'm David Leo. We'll see you guys here